Alright, welcome back to the Recipe Analyst. Today we'll be making Snoop Dogg's Hey Auntie Banana Pudding. And at the end, I'll be comparing it to Rodney Scott's banana pudding recipe, which I made about a year ago. And to start, we're gonna go ahead and mix the dry ingredients for the pudding. So that's the sugar, the cornstarch, and the salt. And I accidentally used a third of a cup of cornstarch instead of a quarter cup of cornstarch, but I think I ended up all right at the end. The difference between a quarter cup and a third cup isn't that big. And after I whisked the dry ingredients together, I added the milk and the heavy cream. Then I'm gonna whisk that together to combine. You definitely want to make sure you combine them pretty well at this part so you don't have any clumps stuck at the bottom or anything. So make sure you get into the corners too. Then I crack in the egg and I whisk that in as well to break it up. And once that's broken up, I can go ahead and add it to the heat on medium-high heat. And I'm just gonna whisk or stir that continuously until it becomes thick. And this takes about 6 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes for it to become thick. And then at this point where it starts to bubble, as you can see here, it's thick and bubbling. I reduce the heat to medium and then I start to whisk it pretty vigorously for about 45 seconds. And that's just to make sure that there's no clumps that form. And after the vigorous whisking, I remove it from the heat and then I strain it through a fine mesh strainer. I use a rubber spatula to push through any of the pudding that didn't fall through a little bit more easily. And then I'm gonna add in the vanilla extract, go ahead and stir that in to combine it evenly. And then since this is a pudding and puddings sometimes form a skin, you want to add the plastic wrap directly to the surface of the pudding and put that in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours. And after the 2 hours, you'll want to whisk it up to loosen it up for the next step. Now it's time to add the bananas to the pudding. So I slice them and then cut them in opposite directions to get some nice chunks going. Then I'll go ahead and add that to the pudding. And I use that rubber spatula again to fold in the banana chunks. And then we'll go ahead and start to assemble the banana pudding. This recipe actually says to assemble these in 6-ounce serving glasses, but instead of using a bunch of glasses, I just decided to use this loaf pan. And the steps are pretty much the same. You start with the banana pudding, layer it with some Nilla wafers, and repeat that until you get to the top, which should be a layer of pudding. Also, the recipe says that the remaining 2 bananas should be sliced as garnish to put on top of the serving dishes, or the serving glasses, but I just decided to slice them up and put them on top of the banana pudding right before I put it in the refrigerator, and it's supposed to refrigerate for at least 4 hours. And after those 4 hours, I go ahead and make the whipped cream. I'll start off by whisking it or beating it with the hand mixer until it's just slightly thick. Then I add the vanilla extract and confectioner sugar. If you're using the rum, you would add it here as well. And then I just continue to beat it until I get the desired consistency. I went for stiff peaks. And then I just top the banana pudding with that whipped cream, and that's about it. So what did I think of this banana pudding recipe? So like I said at the beginning, I wanted to compare it to the Rodney Scott recipe that I made about a year ago. And while both are good, I think this one is a better banana pudding recipe. The Rodney Scott recipe was a really good vanilla pudding recipe that just happened to have bananas in it. But this, since the bananas are mixed into the pudding, there's really a lot of banana flavor in every bite. The pudding is fairly basic is a basic vanilla flavor, but like I said, the banana chunks add a nice texture as well as banana flavor all the way throughout. I also like the Nilla wafers. They didn't get soggy. They're still a little bit dry, but they're still soft, so it's more like a cakey consistency. The whipped cream was also nice since it wasn't as sweet as the pudding itself. It kind of balanced out the sweetness, so the overall sweetness was just right. Overall, I gave this a 9 out of 10. I think the best case scenario would be the pudding from Rodney Scott's recipe, which was a lot more flavorful. It just didn't have the banana flavor, but it was a symbol like this recipe. So I would have chopped up the bananas and added it to the pudding from Rodney Scott's recipe and did everything else the same as this recipe. And I think you would have had a very, very good, probably perfect banana pudding. Anyway, thanks for watching. And as always, you could go to therecipeanalyst.com for a more in-depth analysis. And I want you guys to let me know if there are any recipes you want me to try. I'm always looking for new things to try. And if you guys enjoy watching these and are curious about a specific recipe, I'll give it a try so you know if it's worth making or not. Thanks again. Bye.